Good morning.
What?
Good morning. I'm going to say both of you this morning. So we have a new member of the team on the live this morning. So you're used to my ugly mug and Shawn Hogue's beautiful face. This morning,
fittingly, I'm somewhere in the middle, I guess.
This morning, SK is also with us. So he joined the team here a few weeks ago. Really been able to take some of the tech stuff off of my plate because I was getting a little buried in tech stuff. So it's awesome to have you on the team, SK. I'll say that publicly since I've said it to you privately. And this is the first time that he's joining us on the Facebook Live. So we're gonna ride this out and see how it goes. And fittingly today, we're gonna be talking about fear. But first, I wanna do what we've been doing here and talk a little bit about some interesting news stories that we came across. So I sent both news stories to these guys this morning. A couple interesting things. One is around shoppable TV. So the Sci-Fi channel, which still exists, and I didn't even know that existed. I'm a little out of the loop on cable channels because I haven't had cable for several years. But the Sci-Fi channel, which is owned by NBC Universal, is doing this thing. They're piloting this idea of having shoppable TV. And I didn't dig really deep into the article, but they apparently created this product a while ago. And you can essentially, while the TV program's running, as far as I understand it, like QR codes pop up on the screen and you can scan them and you can go shop. Now, to me, it seems pretty clunky. Especially like I think SK made the joke that like what was the joke that you made that
marketing to nerds is like shooting fish in a barrel.
Right. So like it will work. The Sci-Fi channel may be the only place it'll work, but it will work. And you know, like shopping while you're watching TV is not a brand new thing, but I'm very curious to see how this plays out. And it's interesting. The reason I wanted to mention it is it's interesting to see just new ways that marketers are trying to reach the masses, right? I'm not a huge fan of trying to reach the masses in general, but here you go. Another way that they're trying to do it. So I'm very curious to see how that plays out. Would either of you guys, honestly, like if you're watching a TV show, would you grab your phone and scan a QR code while you're watching the show to go purchase something?
If it was a limited edition, maybe.
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
I would like to say no, but I'm also the guy that like shops on impulse. So I'm sure that I also shop on FOMO. So if I feel like I'm being left out, it doesn't matter how I have to purchase it.
So if they put a thing up there, a counter of like how many people have purchased the product live, like on
it would
Shopping
be like,
Network or something, you'd be.
My friends were like, "Oh my gosh, I shopped while watching TV." I'd be like,
"Oh my gosh, what if they did? What if they linked it?"
Resourced my entire apartment by shopping from TV shows. So.
What if they linked it through like your Facebook profile and you could see like 7 of your friends have purchased this item in the last
hour? It'd be game over.
Sure. Yeah. There's all sorts of integrations that you could mess with. And you were saying mass marketing, Josh, but like it is kind of niche marketing because if you're watching, Firefly on Sci-Fi with an audience of just 10,000, 100,000 people, you're getting that targeting. So
yeah, that's true. It's very interesting to me with these big companies that like they understand marketing on a very deep level, but you still see them like running commercials during shows that don't make any sense to me at all. And maybe there's data there that I'm not aware of, and they're trying new things, but sometimes it feels like they're just like commercial stuffing. Like we got to get one more commercial in. We're going to throw it in during this show, and it doesn't make sense. So I think that's a good point. Is this kind of shoppable TV, I think it will be very specific. I mean, I think it could do well if it's very specific products, knowing what that audience is. So anyway, I thought that was interesting. I didn't see in the article if it said who it was opened up to. If this is like $100,000 ad spend you have to be on this platform, or if it's a $500 ad spend. So we'll dig a little more into that. Another interesting news story. So this has come up with several of our clients, and it's the question of in advertising, masks or no masks, right? When you're showing people shopping in a store, do you show them shopping with masks or not? And there was an interesting article published about some research that they did, and I'll summarize and maybe make some of my own assumptions. I'm not a huge fan of research studies in general because it's too easy to skew the results. I know that because I did research for quite a while. I didn't skew the results, but I saw people doing it. And I saw how easy it would be to do and even get those results published in very reputable journals. So I don't always take research at face value. But one of the things I looked at was, in advertising, do people like to see masks in the ad or not? And it was fairly obvious to me, the results that they stated. It was basically, if there is a very specific campaign about wearing a mask, Uber, for example, their whole thing is like, no mask, no ride. Well, in those commercials, people notice the masks and they want to see them. And they have a very favorable opinion of the ads that have people wearing masks. And that makes perfect sense, right? Like if you're telling people to wear masks, people in your ad should have masks on. The other part of the article that I read, and again, I didn't dive super deep into it, was that basically if the ad was not about a mask specific campaign, so it's just a general ad for something, people didn't necessarily comment on whether there was or wasn't masks in the ad. So it was pretty much like, if the ad is a normal ad, whether you have masks on in the ad or whether you don't, when they asked people to comment on what they noticed about the ad, they didn't make mention of the masks in most cases, which I thought was interesting because I figured it would go like, if there are masks, people would very heavily comment on it. So again, since the three of us are here, I think it's worth just giving kind of our opinion because we don't always have to agree on this stuff. When you're doing advertising and you're in a space where you're, a restaurant or you're a retail store where people are wearing masks into your store on a regular basis, when you're creating advertising campaigns around that, do you put people in masks in the marketing campaign or don't you?
I mean, I think it, like everything we say, it comes back to your brand. If you're UPMC hospitals and part of your brand is like highest care and like utmost safety, then yeah, the subtlety of masks in advertising is probably a smart idea. I personally don't think it's necessary in something for like just a retail shopping experience. I mean, I don't think you're going to do any damage with it, but I just don't think it's. I think what you're trying to communicate requires some facial expression. So is it excitement? Is it, what's the shopping experience of the people you're portraying? A lot of that is going to be communicated through nonverbal cues. And so I think that's just like why add another layer or another obstacle to that. And I don't think people are going to be like, oh my gosh, they're not wearing masks in advertising and I'm never shopping there again. Or if they are, I think the better question is, do you even want their business?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. SK, do you have thoughts on that?
Man, you're throwing me to the wolves on the first
I am,
day.
man. Listen, it's okay. This is your first time. It's okay to say, no, I haven't thought about it. That's completely cool as well.
I'm thinking about it and I'm processing it. And my gut says it also has to do with, I don't know, brands are trying to get into the whole social consciousness movement, and if you feel that it's best for your business, it's sad that the mask wearing has become kind of a political issue in addition to a scientific and a medical issue. And so there is potential of either winning or alienating customers based on just the presence of masks in a completely unrelated thing. And I don't know if this is like planting a flag or anything, but I think that there's the potential for that. And if you know your customers well enough, it might signify, there's virtue signaling and all that kind of stuff too. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm kind of on the fence.
And I think a lot of it is just making sure you have an answer either way, right? Like if you're gonna create advertising that doesn't have people in masks, somebody is gonna complain about it. If enough people see it, someone will complain. So the thing is, what is your answer, right? Or it goes the other way too, because there's plenty of people out there that are saying, I don't need to wear a mask. And I'm not making any statement about what I believe on this issue. I'm just saying, if you're going to put people in masks and somebody's going to say, hey, do I really need to wear a mask? There's one person in the store, have an answer for it, right? That's what happens with a lot of brands is they do something either on a whim or they've not fully thought about it. And then when they are pushed on the issue, now on the spot, they're trying to figure out their answer, right? Yeah. And this again goes back to like everything that we talk about, goes back to brand. how does your brand respond to someone that disagrees with something that you did, right? Are you very insightful and you're, very politically correct? Or are you very direct and you're very strong in your stance and you say, no, that's how we did it. I mean, if you don't like it, sorry, but we're not going to change it. Knowing that up front is very, very important, I think. So, yeah, so we'll try to bring you guys news stories every show that will at least get you thinking about different ways to do advertising. Look at what the markets are doing out there. We're in Erie, Pennsylvania. Quite honestly, behind on a lot of marketing things. So we try to bring some marketing ideas from across the country, around the world, see what people are doing to drive some more innovation here as well. So guys, this is our Tuesday show, of course. We're here every Tuesday and Friday at 9 a.m. with Caffeinated Q&A. We're here with myself, of course, Josh and Shawn Hogue, and we have SK with us. If you joined late, he new member of the Ghost Creative team, so he's joining us for the Caffeinated Q&A today. We also have an email list you can sign up for where you can get some resources every week. You can go to ghostcreative.com/live, sign up for that, and we'll send you an email a week with some, interesting resources we found, some links to the shows, that kind of thing. So, now what I'm going to talk about today and what we're going to talk about today, and feel free to jump in if you have questions, comments, throw them in the chat. We'd love to get your insights on this as well. But I want to talk about fear. Now, we've been diving so deep into these marketing concepts and looking at creating Facebook ads, very practical, tactical things. But this is a topic that comes up so often with our clients, just with, generally people we interact with. And that is overcoming fear when you're publishing content. And so I'm going to kind of walk through a framework that I use, and hopefully it's helpful. And these guys are going to interject where they agree or disagree, and give me their insights as well. But for me, the very first thing you need to do to overcome fear is have a plan. So we live in this world where, we live in this world of ever-changing software development, new things, and we've really gone away from sitting down and creating solid plans. Now, this is something that I think Ghost Creative does very well, whether we're doing a software development project or we're creating a marketing strategy. We sit down and plan it all out on paper first. And we really have to be confident in that plan, because a lot of overcoming fear is a plan that you're confident in, right? Not that someone told you would work, but you can read through the plan and you say, you know what, I don't know whether it's going to work well, but I know this is a good first shot at it. And, this is kind of counterintuitive to how our entire culture works right now with on-demand changes, everything changing very quickly. Even, when I go to the store, my wife makes me a list. I go to the store. Even if there's something that's forgotten on the list, it's no big deal. She'll just text me. She'll just call me, and we can change on the fly. And I think a lot of that, when it comes to publishing content, when it comes to creating ideas and conveying them to the world, I think having a solid plan matters immensely, because when you're getting ready to hit that button and you're like, oh man, should I publish this or not? You can go back and say okay, this fits into my plan. I know why I'm doing this. And I think a lot of people kind of overlook that, but creating that plan that you believe in, I think, is a very big first step. Are you guys, Shawn and SK, are you guys planners by nature, or are you kind of off the cuff mindset?
Shawn, you got to be honest.
Come on, Shawn, let's hear it.
I am the most off the cuff person ever. I never have a plan. I just am roll with no. Anyone who knows me knows that that's not even remotely true. I plan to a fault. So yeah, I'm a planner for sure.
Shawn is the guy that 20 minutes before the meeting, he's in the parking lot waiting. That's Shawn.
Oh, no.
Chat would beg to differ.
We're not going to go down this trail.
For me, Josh, I like to think that I have a plan, but I try to ride that line of, at several points in my life, I've been called to build the airplane midair, that old cliche.
Yep.
And sometimes that's just what you have to do. But I think the more details you can get solid, I think the more success. Another cliche, here I go, but those who fail to plan should
plan to fail.
Yeah. So planning is important, but I've also been down a road where sometimes you get so consumed with the details and you're trying to plan for every eventuality, and that's just not possible either.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's very interesting because like most things in life, I think that I'm not necessarily a planner or not. It depends on what I'm doing, right? Like some things in my life, as my wife will attest, I could benefit greatly from having a plan. But there are some things where it's very structured, very planned out. And I mean, you guys have seen both sides of it, right? Where we're like planning out campaign stuff for clients and it's very structured, very process oriented. And then there's some stuff where I'm just like calling you on Tuesday at 10 a.m. and I'm like, I have an idea. Let's go do this. Can we get it done by the end of the day? Right. I mean, so it's very interesting. But I think specifically if you're trying to overcome fear, I think planning is absolutely critical.
Well, I want to distinguish this a little bit is I don't want to like argue that, but I want to put a little nuance to it is I think a lot of people who aren't natural planners hear this idea that like planning terrifies them. And so I think even just having some sort of framework of this is the filter by which I know I can move forward is helpful. So you may not have a full plan, but I love the term non-negotiables. So when it comes to posting social media, I have a list of like 4 non-negotiables. So I will never post anything that includes this language. Like those 3 or 4 just like checkpoints of I either meet these benchmarks or these are things that I will never do. And just like having that list of non-negotiables can help immensely. Just eliminate that fear. So you don't have to go full force into a plan, but you also still have some sort of framework to know, yes, I can move forward or no, I shouldn't.
Yeah. Yeah. I really like that. So let's say you have your plan, whether it's a super structured plan or just like Shawn is talking about, that's a really good point. Just having your non-negotiables and saying, all right, I think I'm ready to publish this. I think the second thing to do is know for sure that there are naysayers in the crowd, right? I mean, let's just be honest about this. Like there are naysayers in the crowd. I tell my kids all the time, the easiest job in the world is being a cynic. And so many people take that job, right? And so,
you're welcome.
So like there are going to be cynics. If enough people hear your message, there will be people that will tell you all the reasons why you're wrong, why your idea is dumb. And today, the good news is they can tell you how dumb you are in 140 characters or less, or 280 characters or less. And they can tell you instantly, right? Like you don't have to write a letter to the editor and wait for the next newspaper to come out for it to be published. They can tell you how dumb your idea is immediately. And this really, really wrecks a lot of people. And, we have clients that, have asked us to turn commenting off on their social media channels because they don't want to see the negative comments. And so I think just coming to grips with the reality that there are always naysayers. If you have a crowd that's big enough, there are going to be cynics, there are going to be naysayers, and there's no way to avoid that. If you can figure out how to avoid those people, let me know, but I just don't think it's possible. And so you really just, again, before you hit that publish button, have the expectation set. I am going to get negative comments on this. And then if you don't, congratulations. And we'll talk about whether that's a good thing or a bad thing here in a minute. But, just expect it. When you take the greatest authors in the world and when they write a book and it hits the New York Times bestseller list, you can bet that there's going to be 1-star reviews on Amazon. There just is, right? I mean, there's no way that you can avoid those negative comments. I don't want to belabor that one because I think that one's pretty straightforward. But the next thing kind of related is know who you're publishing for, okay? You're never publishing for the cynics. So all those people that are naysayers. So if I'm a New York Times bestselling author and I get a 1-star review on Amazon, that's fine. I didn't write the book for that person, obviously, right? When I publish a post on Facebook and I know that it was true and I know that it's something I believe and, I didn't set out to offend anyone. I just published an idea and you get negative comments on it. That's fine. It wasn't for that person. And we get really confused about what voices we should listen to when the negative voices start flowing in. Now, don't hear what I'm not saying. Okay. You have to understand that, like, if I publish something and my wife comes to me and says, hey, you might want to rethink that. That's a voice I should listen to, right? If Shawn or SK come to me and say, hey, you might want to rethink the way you said that, that's a voice that I should listen to. If some random person on the internet with ill intentions comes and tells me how dumb I am for publishing something on Facebook, probably not a voice I should listen to, especially when the voices closest to me are saying, no, I think that's right. Like, you weren't being offensive. It was a good idea. And we get really, really confused about what voices we should be listening to. I always say I'm not going to accept a negative comment about an ideal that I believe in from someone that I wouldn't accept a movie recommendation from. Right? It's just we get so crazy about it where someone posts something negative and we get stuck in our head and we start going down this spiral of like, oh my gosh, maybe they're right. I'm like, they're probably not right. Again, especially if the voices closest to you are telling you that that what you're publishing is pure and it's true. So is this something that you guys have dealt with or that you've struggled with?
Oh, no, I've never received negative feedback.
I guess I was thinking in terms of accepting it because I feel like my wife would probably agree I'm a little bit unique in this place, but I want to hear where you guys are. Like if you publish something, regardless of what it's done, you've done work and some random person says, that's dumb. That's a horrible idea. I don't agree with you. How does that affect you?
I think,
yeah.
Go ahead.
Sorry, good.
SK, go.
I think that I probably take it a little too much to heart, to be perfectly honest. This would be a growth area for me. Several times I've been involved in creative endeavors, and you put so much of yourself into it, and you do your best, and if it doesn't please everybody, you feel like somehow you failed. And so I think your words about listening to those closest, I think, speak to me, and it's something that I can work on for sure.
Yeah, I certainly growing up was someone that was like very much rocked by what other people were saying. I still, to an extent, and there's certainly triggers of that. But more and more, I'm finding myself like, I don't know how like colorful I want to be about this, but just like kind of screw you. Like it's, like I'm to the point now where I spend so much energy on things I care about. I'm not going to spend things on opinions I don't care about.
Yeah.
And have found kind of a way to move away from that, mostly because I like have an overinflated self of like, or overinflated sense of self that what other people say about that isn't going to like undermine it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've kind of always been like this where, I say that, the way I word it is not actually true because I'm like, I really don't care what other people think. It's not that I don't care what other people think. It's that I feel like I'm pretty good at filtering out voices from like, if you're not my intended audience, then your opinion doesn't really matter. Outside of like you said something offensive and everybody agrees on that. But when it's just some random person throwing out negative comments, it's pretty easy for me to just brush that off. So I try to be careful when I talk to other people about it because I know that that's not true for everyone. A lot of people do take that deeply to heart and feel like it's a personal attack or whatever. But I'm when you know who you're publishing for, it becomes much easier to filter that out. And so since we've talked about playing bingo, I'm going to throw out a Seth Godin idea here. He talks about when you're working on projects, but this works when you're talking about posting on social media for your business, whatever. He talks about making the list of people whose opinion matters up front. So he talks about, you're going to do this project and you make the list of all the people whose opinion matter in order, right? And so then when somebody comments on your stuff and they say, hey, my mother-in-law really thinks that the design in your app is dumb. Like, okay, where is your mother-in-law on my list of people whose opinions matter? Oh, she's not on the list. So tell her I said, thanks for the opinion. We'll look into it. But whose voices should you be listening to? When you know that up front, it's much easier to filter them out on the back end. So.
I think it's much more fun to be like, sorry, you're not on the list. I don't care.
You would, Shawn. You would.
So let me interject with a question here. Guys.
Sure.
Because I've been told in the past that, there's an ounce of truth in every comment, right? So, sometimes it's best to even look at our critics and what is it? It's like throw away the bones and search for the meat, kind of thing. So is there value in listening to a critic to try to find those things, or is that just a waste of your time?
So I think of it like this. I'll use the book review, the 5-star rating idea again. So if somebody gives you a 3 or 4 star rating, I would probably read those reviews. When someone gives you a 1-star rating, that's probably just not your audience, right? So like, it depends on how harsh it is. We're pretty good as humans, if we're being honest, in filtering out just a hateful comment versus someone that's trying to give you constructive criticism. I don't think there's any value in listening to or evaluating what you're doing based on hateful comments. Like for a fun exercise, pick any product on Amazon and just go read the 1-star reviews. And you'll see like there's nothing helpful in them. They're just trying to tear someone else down. Now, some of them are true. Some of them, like, the product didn't work and it showed up and the company never answered my phone call. Okay, that's legit. You should probably listen to that. A lot of the 1-star reviews you see are just like, this is the dumbest book I've ever read. Well, did you not read what it was about prior to purchasing it, right? Like, you're probably not the right audience. So I think there's value in kind of taking those middle of the road opinions to heart. I don't think there's a lot of value in taking like the far end of the, negative comments to heart. Good question. Okay, so we talked about having a plan, knowing ahead of time that there's going to be naysayers, knowing who you're publishing for and being very clear about that. And then the last thing is, and you've heard this before, this is not new, but it's really about publishing in spite of the fear and not trying to get rid of it.
Yeah.
Because the fear is going to be there.
Retweet.
The fear is going to be there. And the reality is, if the fear is not there, then I would ask you, is what you're doing really valuable? Right? Like, if you're so comfortable with it that you know what the response is going to be, you know how everyone is going to react, you're 100% certain about it from beginning to end, is what you're doing really impactful? Is it really potentially forcing someone to think different? Is it really pushing someone to change? Or is it just mundane? And so if there's no fear at all, I think that's also a potential red flag where you say, like, yeah, I'm going to post this and I'm 100% confident how it's going to be accepted.
Yeah.
I don't think every person that has changed the world, that has pushed you to think differently, they didn't know what was going to happen when they published, right? They took a shot. They probably took 100 shots and got 99 of them wrong. And then that one shot, they were still willing to push the boundaries a little bit and get you to think differently. And so I think,
sorry,
go ahead. No, go ahead.
I think people need to remember far more than we do is that in today's, especially on social media, when you can just keep scrolling, even if you do have a terrible piece of content, people forget so quickly. Unless you're like a Nike and you roll out a commercial on, Super Bowl Sunday, the risk is very minimal, just because people are so quick to forget anymore. So as long as you're not tackling like racism or like a very, very hot topic, or you have like the market share of a Nike, the risk is so minimal that you're probably overinflating how much fear should be placed on something. Post it, take the feedback, and move on, because everyone watching it probably is too.
Yeah. So again, I'm thinking about bingo, so I got to get a Gary Vaynerchuk quote in here too. Plus my wife is on the live, so she loves Seth Godin and Gary Vaynerchuk. She's not heard enough quotes from them. So something happened with VaynerMedia a few weeks ago that was in the news, and we didn't talk about it, but it goes along with this same idea, and I want to make a point, so hang with me here for a minute. So VaynerMedia in New York City, they had a job posting. And the job posting was for like an entry level, I think it was graphic designer or something like that. And the salary was listed as 30 to 50,000. And all these people started bashing VaynerMedia, saying, how in the world, like, you guys are a huge company, you're trying to take advantage, only offering people $30,000 a year, just like running them through the mud for a few hours. Well, if you've listened to anything by Gary Vaynerchuk, you know that he comes across as very brash, but he's very empathetic. He immediately released a video where he was like, he had a plan. He had all the numbers. He was like, hey guys, I understand people are concerned. And he basically had all the numbers of, we've hired, I don't know what the numbers are, 50 people for this position over the last 3 years, 80% of them, or, he actually said the real number. So like 42 of them were hired above the $40,000 range. 8 of them were hired below the $40,000 range. And he went on to explain why the salary level was that. And so when people are afraid to publish because they're so afraid somebody's going to jump on them and say, like, oh my gosh, this is horrible, you made a mistake. the way brands get themselves in trouble is they do make a mistake and they don't address it, right? Like they let it go for months while they have meeting after meeting after meeting trying to decide how to respond to it. And if you do publish something and you realize in the end, like, oh, it was offensive, address it and address it quickly, right? Because as soon as Gary Vaynerchuk did that, the news stories went away. Right? Yeah. They went away. There's no more news story. He clarified everything you bashed him for. He clarified and told you why they were doing what they're doing. Now you still don't have to agree, but where's the news story now? Right? It's gone because he clarified all the details. And so even if you do publish something and you realize that, man, I went a little bit too far, communicate, right? Like communicate, address it immediately, reach out to somebody individually, but don't let that fear of these news stories where you hear things just get blown completely out of proportion affect your ability to publish, because you can always just be a human and address the things if you do mess up, right? It's not insurmountable, and the media has you believing that it is, and it's just not. We just have to be humans.
Well, and in fairness, like, what a great way to weed out people who you don't want to work with. Like just from like, if that were me hiring that position, that immediately, like, I'm only attracting people who desperately want to work for VaynerMedia at that point.
Yeah.
I understand there's a line there, $30,000 in New York City, you're living in a box, but
there's other jobs in New York City where you're not making much money and nobody was jumping on that.
Right. But at the same point, immediately you're only talking to people who desperately want to work for VaynerMedia at that point. Right. And so there is an element to that it's actually kind of smart.
Yeah. Yeah. So guys, I want to summarize kind of here the framework again that we went over, but it's about overcoming fear when you're publishing, when you're creating new ideas. And for me, again, it's about 1, making a plan, 2, knowing for sure, having the expectation there's going to be naysayers, there's going to be cynics in the crowd. 3, knowing who you're publishing for. So when the voices do start to roll in, you know whether you should be listening to them or how intentionally you should be listening to them. And then lastly, it's publishing in spite of the fear. And again, if there's no fear around what you're doing, then, are you really making an impact? Are you really forcing people to change? So I hope that this is being helpful. This has been helpful because we see so many people creating such great stuff. They have such a great product. They're so good at communicating, and they let this fear just absolutely paralyze them. And so the world's missing out on what you're creating when you're afraid to publish. And if you guys know me, you know that I'm a huge fan of publishing, of pushing the envelope when it comes to creativity and really just getting your message out there, because I believe the world needs more positive voices. And so many of the positive voices in the world are getting drowned out or scared away by negative comments on a social media platform. We have to do better than that. Let the negative comments come. It's fine. You'll be okay. If you need me to address any negative comments, give me a call. I have no problem doing that. But seriously, guys, get out there, publish your ideas, get them across to the world. We need more positive ideas in the world. So guys, again, thank you so much for the time. I hope you enjoyed having SK and Shawn both on the call today. We are going to be here again on Friday at 9 a.m. for Caffeinated Q&A. I know we took a little bit of a hiatus, but we are back, and we're going to stay back. The style of the show might change a little bit, but I promise we're not going anywhere anytime soon. Thank you guys so much for your support, and we will talk to you on Friday. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.